Thank you so much for joining our today's lesson. We shall be continuing with this paper. Those who have been on our program, they know very well that Masса joint is a very good paper, and we've already discussed the section 1 of this paper. This paper, section 1, has already been discussed. Therefore, you will allow me go direct to the section 2 of this paper. Yeah, section 2, 50 marks, but we shall attempt the questions consecutively. So please be ready for a thorough discussion. Number 17, we'll be reading the question, then we solve together. Now, a piece of wire, which is 38 meters, is cut into two parts. Underline that, is cut into two parts. Now, the first part is bent to form a square, while the second part is bent to form four sides of a rectangle. Okay? Now, the length of the rectangle is 6 centimeters, and its breadth is x centimeters. Part A, express the area of the square in terms of x. So one thing that you're supposed to know here, we don't know the portions into which this particular length has been divided. They are just two, but one is longer than another because we've not been told it's divided into two. But now after the division, you can see the length of the rectangle has been given 6 centimeters and the breadth is x, meaning that we can get the total length making the rectangle in terms of x. So for the rectangle, we can talk about its perimeter. So perimeter of rectangle, perimeter of the rectangle. We know the formula. Perimeter in a rectangle is given by 2 multiplied by length plus width. So 2 into length and the width, which is x. So if you open the brackets, it will be 12 plus 2x. Now, if we have the length of the perimeter, we can also find the perimeter of the square, because one part was bent to a square, the other one is bent to a rectangle. Now, look at it this way. Perimeter of square. Perimeter of square shall be, remember the total length was 38. So the two of them now are supposed to add up to 38. So perimeter of the square will be the remaining part now. When we pick the total length, 38, because the two perimeters are supposed to total to 38, minus the perimeter, which is rectangular. Minus the perimeter, which is rectangular. So this now shall be 26. Then you open brackets there, it becomes minus 2x. So this is now the perimeter of the length, perimeter of the square. That is now perimeter of the square. Now with perimeter, we can get length. So length of square. Length of square. Because we have expressed the perimeter, then we remember very well that perimeter in a square is usually given by, perimeter in a square is usually given by 4 multiplied by side. You know, all the sides are equal. So 4 times the sides will give us perimeter. So for us to get the length, we divide the perimeter by 4. We divide this by 4. And this becomes 13. 13 out of 2 minus 1 out of 2x. So this is the length. This is the length of one side of the square. Meaning that to find the area now of square, area of square shall be given by one side squared. Area of a square, side squared. So 13 out of 2 minus half x, then we square. Those who know the quadratic identities, they can open this one without having to go through the long method. So 13 over 2 squared, that becomes 169 over 4 minus 13 over 2 multiplied by half multiplied by 2. This gives us exactly 6 and half. 6 and half. 6 and half, or 13 over 2 x, then plus we square half x. That becomes a quarter x squared. So this is now an expression for the area of the square. That is area of the square. You can also give the expressions as improper fractions. You can simplify all of them. You can still simplify. So we can write a simplified expression whereby area of the square now becomes 169 over 4. This can be written as 42 and a quarter minus, instead of 13, we can have 6 and half, then plus a quarter x squared. So that is now the area of the square. Then part B of this question. Let's read part B of the question. Now, if the sum of the areas of the square and the rectangle is a square centimeters, show that the total area now of the square and the rectangle is equal to this expression. Remember, area of the square has been expressed here. What about area of the rectangle? Length times width. Length times width. Because for the rectangle, it is 6 times a width or breadth of 6. 6 times x, that way. So 6x. What about total area? A equals to sum. 6 plus the area for the square now. A quarter x squared. Then we rearrange. We see whether it shall be this way. It's also good for you to note that 42 and half, 42 and a quarter, sorry. When you change this, it's 42 and a quarter, not half. This is a quarter, yeah. That way, this is a quarter, yeah. So we can start with the part that has our 2, a quarter x, then the part that has x. 6x minus 6 and half, we get negative half x. Then now we remain with this part, 42 and a quarter, which is 169 over 4. And you see now, after adding, you discover that it is equal to what had been given here already. So we've shown that the total area equals to a quarter x squared minus half x plus 169 over 4. Yeah, over 4 like that. A quarter x squared, sorry, this is also squared, that was a mistake. A quarter x squared, like that. A quarter x squared minus a half x plus 169 out of 4. So this question now is having a part C. We can read the part C together. Given that the area, total area equals to 46 meters squared, find the value of x and hence determine the perimeter of the rectangle that was formed. So let's get the value of x. So the total area has a value of 46. So you write a quarter x squared minus half x plus 169 over 4. This is the total area, so should be equivalent to 46. Is that okay? Yeah, equivalent to 46. We can bring the 46 to the left-hand side so that we have the right format. So quarter x squared minus half x. Then now we are having 42 and a quarter, and we subtract the 46. So when you subtract 46, you get negative 3 and 3/4. Negative 3 and 3/4. You see, this can be written as improper now. Improper, which is 15/4. Yeah, 15/4. So negative 15/4 equals to 0. So we have a quadratic equation. With a quadratic equation, we can now solve it. Allow me use the quadratic formula that says, for us to get the value of x, we need plus, we need negative, the value of b, then plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, everything over 2a. Everything over 2a. So we substitute now. According to our equation, a is a quarter, b is negative half, and c is negative 15/4. So we compute now negative half, which means negative half, negative half, because it's negative b, plus or minus the square root of negative half squared minus 4. A is a quarter, and c is negative 15/4. Yeah, 15/4. Then everything out of 2 times a quarter. Everything times 2 into a, and a is a quarter, like that. So we can compute a few things. This becomes half plus or minus. Half plus or minus. When we square negative half, it becomes a quarter. Is that okay? Then we have negative 4. Together with the other negative here, after multiplication, it changes to positive. So 4 times a quarter times 15/4. This gives us 3 and 3/4. So we pick now. We're now going to pick. We're going to pick a quarter plus a quarter. Then we add a quarter. Then we add 3 and 3/4. So everything under the root sign now becomes root 4. And the root of 4, because I'm saying the first part here, 4 times a quarter times negative 15/3, it becomes 3 and 3/4. And when you square half, you get a quarter. So it's like we're having a quarter minus negative 3 and 3/4. And that becomes 4. So inside, under the root sign, we have 4. The square root of 4 is positive and minus 2. So now with that, we can divide everything here by 2 times a quarter, it will become half. 2 times a quarter becomes half. So we can now continue solving. The first value of x equals to half plus 2. Then we divide by half. We get exactly 5, or x equals to half minus 2. Then we divide by half, and we get negative 3. So we have 2 possible values of x. That is a positive 5 and negative 3. Now with 2 values of x, and this is an application question whereby we are dealing with a quantity, a physical quantity. With physical quantities, value are supposed to be positive. So in this point, there is no way a measurement can be negative, measurement of a length. And so we'll say that now we settle for, this implies that x equals to 5. This implies that x equals to 5 centimeters or meters, like that, meters. Therefore now, The rectangle which was obtained is 6 centimeters times x. So area shall be 6 times x, which is now 5, 30 square meters. So area, because we're told hence, we determine the perimeter. Sorry, we are determining the perimeter, sorry. Hence, we determine the perimeter now. The perimeter shall be 2. Perimeter equals to 2 into 6 plus 5. So this is 11 by 2. So the perimeter is going to be, exactly 22. Exactly 22. If you're learning something, please type, I am learning. That's a very good question. And when reading such a question, you're supposed to be very, very careful so that you interpret everything in the right way. It's an application of quadratic expressions and it's a very unique question. So if we are together, type, I am learning. Then now we can check the next question, and that is number 18. Now the table below shows the marks out of 50 scored by 80 students. This is a very critical statement. 80 students in a given examination. We have the marks there in classes. Then the first thing, have you solved the number of students, which is our frequency? They are there, they have their own column. Now determine the value of M, hence state the model class. So when we are told to determine the value of M, and we are told total students were 80, then it means all the number of students are supposed to add up to 80. 8, 11, the unknown M, the 16, the 19, the 9 there, then the 4. When you add everything, you're supposed to get 80. So how shall you remain with M? You're supposed to pick 80 and you subtract all these additions. 8, 11, 16, 19, 9, and 4, getting 67 there. Or we can confirm, 8 plus 11 plus 16 plus 19 plus 9 plus 4, 67. So 80 minus 67 gives us 13. So the value of M equals to 13. So we are having 13 here. That is what you're supposed to know. Hence, state the model class. Now, model class is the class that has the highest frequency. The class that has the highest frequency. So the class that has the highest frequency out of all the classes here is the class that has a frequency of 19. That is the class 35 to 39. So that is the class with the highest frequency. Class with the highest frequency. Okay, so we are done the part A of that question. A very good question. If you're getting something, type on the comment section that I am learning. Then look at part B. Using 27 as a working mean, calculate part 1, the mean mark, and part B, the standard deviation. When we talk about working mean, it means assumed mean. That's another name of assumed mean. So allow me now manipulate this data and arrange the values this way. I start with the classes. Then after that, we can talk about frequencies. And then after frequencies, we can talk about midpoints of every class. Then from midpoints, we can talk about the deviations of every midpoint from the assumed mean. Then frequency times the deviations. Then from there, we can talk about ft squared because of the standard deviation. So let's begin. So the first thing we are finding is the classes. Okay, we have the classes, we have the frequencies. So we can also find the midpoints, midpoint x. So we start. The first class is 15 to 19. The frequency there is exactly 8. Then the midpoint shall be 15 and 19. You add and divide by 2. You get 17 as the midpoint. 17. From there, we can go to the next class. You will allow me partition the classes so that we have our clean work, so that every value is on its own. Then from there, we have 20 to 24. The midpoint shall be 22. Sorry, not midpoint. We can start with the F. Sorry. The midpoint is 22, and the F is 11. Yeah, when you add 20 and 24, you're getting 44. Divide by 2, 22. We partition the class. We partition the class like that. Then the next thing can be 25 to what? 25 to 29. 25 and 29 divided by 2 give us 27. So the midpoint X is 27, and the frequency there is 13. The 13 that we've already calculated. Then from there, we can talk of 30 to 34. 30 to 34. The mid here shall be 32. That's the midpoint shall be 32. Then the frequency from that class is exactly 16, as you can see. 16. Then the other one is 35 to 39. 19 here. Meaning that the midpoint with 35 and 39 is going to be exactly 37. Is that okay? Yes. After 35 to 39, we can talk of 40 to 44. 40 to 44. Mid shall be 42. Yeah. Then 9 is the frequency. Finally, we have a frequency of 4. Finally, the frequency is 4. And the class is 41 to 40, 45 to 49. 45 to 49. So this is going to be 47. When we take 45, we add 49, we divide the 2 by 2, we get 47. So now we have at least now the classes when they are properly organized. So for us to use an assumed mean, we're supposed to come up with the values of t here, such that t is the deviation of every midpoint from the assumed mean. Deviations of every midpoint from the assumed mean. So that is the value of t. If I've described t now, then we can continue to work out t. Assumed mean or working mean is 27. So we start with every midpoint minus assumed mean. 17 minus 27, we get negative 10. Then we proceed to 22 minus 27, we get negative 5. 27 minus 27, 0. 32 minus 27, we get 5, 10, 15, 20, like that. So those are the deviations. After this, ladies and gentlemen, we can talk of now FT. FT. Each frequency now times the deviation. So the first one is 8 by negative 10. We get negative 80. After that, we go to 11 and negative 5. We get negative double 5. This one is a 0. 13 by 0 is just 0. 16 by 5. I use my calculator and I get 80. 19 by 10, I get 190. 9 by 15. I get exactly 135. Then from there, we can talk of 4 by 20. Is it 80? Yeah, exactly 80. So can we get summation of FT? Summation of FT? Negative 80 minus 55 plus 0 plus 80 plus 190. We add again 135. We add 80. And this is going to be exactly 350. You can confirm from that side whether we are computing the right thing. Please confirm whether we are computing the right thing. Negative 80 minus 55 plus a 0 plus 80 plus 190. We add again 135 and we add 80. This is 350. So when we talk about mean now, mean, the exact mean, actual mean, is given by assumed mean plus the summation of ft out of summation of f. So now we start with 27, our assumed mean, plus 350 out of 80. Summation of f is 80. This is equal to 80. We've already worked it out here. Everything added should give us 80. So at this point now, we can say that the actual mean is equal to, we can take 350 first. We divide it by 80, and we shall get 27 plus 4.375. So the actual mean is exactly equal to 31.375. So the actual mean is 31.375. Statistics 2, calculation of mean using assumed mean. So we get 31.375. So that is the formula. Please make sure you master it. All right, from there, we're supposed to know that a standard deviation, which is in this case the square root of variance, is given by the variance itself is summation of ft squared out of summation of f. Then now we minus summation of ft out of summation of f, and this part should be squared. Then now we take square root of everything. We now take the square root of everything like that. So this is now the formula that we're going to apply. When you look at our table, we have already worked out, ft. So we need now ft squared. So we square now everything. We square now everything. So now in our squaring, ladies and gentlemen, we start. Let me get back to my calculator. I get back to my calculator. Okay. The first thing is, I first square negative 10, then I multiply it by 8. That is 100 times 8. We get 800. In the next case, it shall be 5 squared. Then I multiply it by the frequency of 11. I'm getting to 75. This becomes a 0, because anything times a 0 to be eliminated. 25 again, because of 5 squared times 16. A frequency of 16, that gives us 400. Then we have a 10 squared, that's 100. 100 times 19, 1900. 15 squared. 15 squared. Then after squaring 15, I multiply it by 9. 2025. 2025. Then 20 squared. and I multiply 20 squared by 4, I get 1600, like that. So now we can add. I want to assume that I'm computing very accurately. In case it is not very accurate, please understand me and use the right figures. So we add everything. 800, 275, 400, 1900. Then we are adding 2025. Then we are adding 1600. You know, I'm getting what? Exactly 7,000. You can confirm that value. 800, 275 from your calculator, 1900, 2025, 1600. So I'm getting 7,000 confirmed. Now we get to the formula substitution. 7,000 out of 80 minus, you know, this part has already been worked out. We're just having to square now. That part divided became 4.375. 4.375. We're now supposed to square that part. And after this, we find the square root of everything. Square root of everything. So now the square root shall be, okay, before square root, allow me divide this by 80 first. I get 87.5 and I minus 4.375 squared. This is 19.140625. Remember the working out of the square root is working out of the square root that way. So at this point now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm supposed to write 87.5. I minus that answer and I get 68.359375. So that now the exact standard deviation shall be 8.268. This is to 4 significant figures. To 4 significant figures, that answer is very correct. Yeah, we had not been told to use any accuracy, so allow me choose 4 significant figures. So that is now the working out of standard deviation for grouped data, statistics 2, form 4 mathematics. If you're getting something, type I am learning. Yeah, give us your comment. Let's know whether you're learning something with us. Let us know whether you are learning something from Shifting Grades Online School. Number 19, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the sum of the first 3 consecutive terms of a GP is 42. The sum is 42. Then we are further told that now the numbers are also the first, the fourth, and the 10th terms of an AP. Part A, the first term, and the common ratio of the GP. In other words, like they are telling us to find the first term and the common ratio of the GP. That is the first question. So with that question, I want us now to interpret it together. Sequences and series are very simple concepts with very few formula. And when you interpret it well, you end up scoring everything. When you also take your time and peruse, when you peruse through our channel, you will get properly analyzed questions on the same. So you get a lot of understanding by just being a frequent visitor of Shifting Grades Online School. So look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Just look at this. Just look at this. We are saying that the sum of the first 3 consecutive terms is 42. And those terms are also the first, the fourth, and the 10th. First, do we know how to get any of the term of an AP? We talk about first term plus n minus 1 multiplied by the common difference. So the first is just a. The second, not the second, but now the fourth. The fourth, let me record the fourth for you. The fourth equals to a plus 4 minus 1, then times d. And the 10th equals to a plus 10 minus 1 times d. 9d. Yeah, 9d like that. So now we are having the first, the fourth, and the 10th terms of the AP in an expression. But now they become consecutive. You know, they become consecutive in a certain GP. They are consecutive. One, we also thought that the sum is equal to 42. So when we add these ones, they should give us 42. A plus 3D plus A plus 9D. We should get 42. This becomes our first equation. Can we group terms? 3 times A plus, is this 12? Yes. Yeah, it's 12D equals to 42. That's our first equation, but it can still be simplified. A plus 4D after dividing through by 3. This is 14. We have equation 1. We have equation 1. So if we have equation 1, which can further be simplified, yeah, if A plus 4D equals to 14, then the expression for A can be given as 14 minus 4D, like that. From that point, ladies and gentlemen, from that point, we can now start again relating a GP and an AP. We know that if these terms are consecutive, if they are consecutive, then it means they are giving us a common ratio. There is a common ratio. This way, that when we pick the fourth term, let me show you, and we divide by the first, this way. If your two terms are in a sequence, it means they have, in a geometric sequence, they are defined by a common ratio. For example, from 2, we go to 6, we go to 18. It means when you pick 6 and we divide it by 2, it's the same as picking 18 and we divide it by 6. This is exactly 3. Throughout, we get 3. So now we can say, if we pick A plus 9D and we divide it by A, this is the same as picking, I'm picking the second over the first, second over the first, which is A plus 3D out of the first should be the same as this third one, A plus 9D out of A plus 3D. Yeah, because they must be having a common ratio. So a cross multiplication will give us A squared. You know, I'm multiplying this way. So A by A plus 9AD equals to 3. A plus 3D should be squared now because we are multiplying A plus 3D times A plus 3D. So A squared plus 6AD plus 9D squared. Like that, 9D squared. If we start grouping terms together, A squared and A squared shall cancel. Then we can have 3AD being equal to 9D squared. Can we divide through by D? Yes. 3A equals to 9D because the value of D can divide. So that 3D equals to 9D squared. So D divided by one of the D's here. So that D remains linear like that. This is our second equation. Now when we solve by substitution, ladies and gentlemen, 3, and instead of A, we write 14 minus 4D should be equal to 9D. So this is 42 minus 12d equals to 9d. The value of 42 equals to 21d when we take 12 to the right-hand side. So that the value of d now becomes exactly 2 after dividing by 21 through. We get the value of d as 2. Now that we have the value of d, what were we finding first? We were finding the first term and the common ratio of the GP. So now that is the d, meaning that the value of a shall be, according to this, we pick 14 and we minus 4 into the value of d, which is 2. So I'm getting a is 6. So the first value, or the first term, this is for the AP. The first term for the AP is exactly 6. The common difference is 2. Now with that, we can find now first term of the GP. So the first term of the GP is A. First term is A, which is just 6. So they share first terms. They share the first term. So the first term, that is A, equals to 6. And the common ratio is going to be, now for us to get the common ratio, ladies and gentlemen, we are supposed to establish the other parts. So we talk about A, which is A is 6 plus 3 into D, which is 2. We're getting 12. We're getting 12 here. Then here, it shall be 6 plus 9 into 2. I'm getting 24. So the first term is the first. The fourth term in the AP becomes the second. The 10th term in the AP becomes the third. So 12 over 6, is it the same as 24 over 12? We're getting the common ratio as 2. So the common ratio is 2. This is now the final answer. Common ratio 2, first term 6 for the GP. For the GP. So that is it. That is it. Part B of this question, ladies and gentlemen. The third term of the GP. The third term of the GP. So for the GP, the third term is going to be here. It's 24. We've already worked out. The third term. The third term becomes the 10th term in the AP. It becomes 24. Or you can work it out this way. You can use this formula, the one we've used, which is A. A is 6 plus 9, and the common difference is 2. So we get 24, or, nth term in what we call a GP is given by A, r power n minus 1. So the term is A, 6. R is 2 power, because it is the third term, 3 minus 1. So this is going to be 6 times 2 power 2. 2 power 2 is 4. So 6 by 4, we get 24. So we can also work it out that way. That is part B. If you're getting something, remember the comment, type I am learning. So that now we check part C. Find the least number of terms of the GP that will give a sum greater than 550. So can we check the number of terms that will give us 550? The number of terms that will give us 550. So sum of a given number of terms is given by A into A into, I want to write the formula for you. A into R power n, then minus 1. Out of R minus 1. That is now the formula for a given number of terms, the sum of a given number of terms. So the sum of 550 can be given by first term into R power n minus 1 out of R. R is 2 minus 1. So this is out of 1. So it remains the way it is. So we are having 550 being equal to 6 into r power n. So 2 power n minus 1. And we divide through by 6. 550 over 6. We're getting a 91 and 2/3 equals to 2n minus 1. So the negative 1 can be added here so that you have 2 power n equals to, the 1 becomes positive here, 92 and 2/3. 92 and 2/3. So at this point, we can introduce logarithms because the unknown is a power. The log of 2 power n equals to the log of 92 and 2/3. Then according to the third law of logarithms, there is something you know that the log of a power n is the same as n log a. We drop the n. So at this point, we shall say the log of 92 and 2/3 equals to n log 2. So that for us to remain with n, we divide through by logarithms. So the log of 92 and 2/3 divided by the log of 2. This gives us exactly 6.534. That is the estimated number of terms, which will give us exactly, this number will give us exactly 550. So now for the sum to be greater than this, now the number of terms is supposed to be 7. So we need 7 terms, at least 7 terms, because in case you use 6 terms, the sum is not going to exactly 6 terms. The sum shall not be even 550. It will be lower than that. But when we use 7 now, if 6.534 is giving us 550, then 7 terms upwards. 7 is the least number, so that you may get 550. So we estimate upwards now. We get 7 terms. Yeah, the least number of terms is 7. Because when you use 6 terms, if 6.5 is the answer here, then exactly 60 will not be here. So for the sum to be greater than 550, we need more than 6.5, that is 7. So at least 7 terms are needed. So that is the answer of the last part on sequences and series. That's a very serious question. And for your information, our programs are ongoing. You can use our number 0704 15 3366. We are continuing with our very serious programs. So you may reach out so that you may enroll and continue with your friends. The program is ending on 24th April 2026. So reach out, please, so that you may enroll and continue with your peers. They are very interactive sessions. Even for the junior school, you can reach out anytime for assistance. So that is it. Checking number 26, not 20, sorry. Don't know where 26 is coming from. Okay, number 20. A bag contains 8 blue marbles and 3 green marbles and some red. Underline that. And some red marbles. Then from there, we are told that the marbles are similar except for the color. 2 marbles are picked from the bag, one after another without replacement. The probability that the 2 marbles picked are both blue is 7 out of 30. Both blue, 7 out of 30. Then now, part A, we are supposed to calculate the number of red marbles in the bag. The number of red marbles in the bag. Therefore, let us have a number here. Let the red marbles to be x. Let us let them to be x because we don't know the number. We can let them to be x. Then when they are let to be x now, the total shall be 8 plus 3 plus the red, which is 11 plus x. Now, how do we get probability? The two of them are red, probability both red. So probability red followed by red. It means this is the first, picking red first. Probability that they are both blue. Sorry, the given here is blue. So probability both of them being blue. So probability blue followed by another blue. It means picking the first blue, the probability is 8 out of the exact total. Then multiplied by picking blue for the second time, which is now 7 because we have already picked and we are not replacing 7 out of the new total. We subtract 1 from the total here. So 10 plus x. This is supposed to give us 7 out of 30. 7 out of 30. So this is going to be 56. Yeah, that's 8 by 7. We get 56 out of, let me use the space on this side because I can see the question might be very involving. 56 out of, now can we open brackets for the numerators, which are the denominators, which are also supposed to be multiplied? 11 plus x into 10 plus x. This is now going to be 110 plus 11x plus 10x plus x squared, like that. So this is 110 plus 21x plus x squared. Now this is equal to 7 over 30. Yeah, that is equal to 7 over 30. So now we can simplify now. Cross multiplication. Cross multiplication will have 56 by 30 and 7 by 110 plus 21x plus x squared. Yeah, I hope we are together up to that point. According to me, I can even simplify the 7 here and this becomes 8. Yeah, like that. 7 there and we remain with 8. So 8 by 30, it gives us 240. This is equal to 110 plus 21x plus x squared. So with this, we can solve using, let me use the quadratic. Okay, we used the quadratic method in the first question. There's somewhere we used the quadratic formula. So allow me now use the completing square method. Yeah, I use now the completing square method. So with the completing square method, ladies and gentlemen, with the completing square method, we shall talk of, let's arrange the equation such that we have x squared plus 21x equals to, the constants now are taken to the same side. 240 minus 110, we get 130. So now we're supposed to add a constant on both sides. We're supposed to add a constant on both sides such that the left hand side becomes a perfect square. For us to get a perfect square, my brothers and sisters, we need to say that a constant, which is c, constant c is equal to b out of 2 squared. So 21 over 2 and we square. 21 over 2 squared. 21 over 2 squared. 21 over 2 squared. So we also add 21 over 2 squared. 21 over 2 squared on both sides. Can we now factorize the left-hand side, whereby we need the square root of this part, which is x. The sign that follows is a plus. The square root of this constant now is 21 over 2. That is now factorized. That is how we simply factorize a difference of two squares. Then on the other side, now we are having 130. We add 31 over 2 squared. This is going to be 240 and a quarter after squaring and adding. From there now, we can take square root on both sides. Square root on both sides will give us x plus 21 over 2 equals to square root plus or minus. The square root shall be 15 and a half. 15 and a half. How shall we remain with the value of x? We pick the positive part, which is 15 and a half. We subtract 21 over 2. We get exactly 5. Or the value of x is negative 15 and a half. Then we subtract again 21 over 2. This is going to be negative 26. So now that we are dealing with a number of marbles, we can't have a negative number. So we settle for x equals to 5. So the blue marbles, okay, the red marbles, which were led to be x, are now confirmed to be 5 of them. So there are 5 marbles. 5 marbles. So x equals to 5. X equals to 5. It's a very good question. You're supposed to know how probability is computed. Then when you get equations like without, when you get information like without replacement, you should also know how to account for that. That's why we said the probability here equals to total of the blues, 8 over the total that we had let, which is here, multiplied by the second picking of a blue, which is now 7 out of the new total, whereby we are lessing 1. So it's a very good, then you proceed. The normal equation now. You compute and you get your answer. It's a very good question. It's a very good question. We got a part B. We got a part B of this, whereby now we are using a tree diagram to represent the information. So now we are having now reds are 5 now. So in the first picking, we have 3 options. Let me change this color. The first picking, we have 3 options. We can pick any of the 3 colors. We are having a blue, green, and red. Blue, green, and red. Now picking blue, you know there are 8. So it's 8 out of the total. The total is now 8, 3, and 5. 16. 16. For green, there are 3. Still over 16. This is 5 over 16. We are together in that. Then the second picking now without replacement. The second picking and without replacement. When you had picked a blue, you can still pick another blue. You can pick a green or red. Picking another blue now becomes 7 over new total of 15. There's something I want to confirm there. Half multiplied by 7 over 15. That is 7 over 30. Yeah, the probability was 7 over 30. That's very okay. Then from this point, we can pick now blue, so which is 7 over 15. But now for green, it remains 3 out of 15. And this one remains 5 over 15. Then for the greens, we advance now to green. We can pick green again, or blue, or pick a red. Now picking green for a second time now lowers to 2 over 15. Then now for blue, they remain 8 over 15. And this is 5 over 15. Here, when we had picked a red, we can still pick red again, or green, or a blue. Now picking red for a second time shall be 4 over the new total, which is 15. Picking green remains 3 over 15. Picking blue remains 8 over 15 that way. So those are the probabilities, and we're having our tree diagram. It's good to analyze the information at the end of the tree diagram. This is a blue followed by blue. This is a blue, then green. This is a blue followed by red. Then we can have green and blue, green and green, green and red, red, blue, red, green, red, 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 red. Those are the possibilities. After this, now we can check the questions that come after the tree diagram. The questions that come from the tree diagram. Using the tree diagram in part B above, find part 1, the probability that the two marbles picked are of the same color. Same color means probability the two are reds, or probability the two are greens, or probability the two are blues. So this means red, red, red and red. This case, we are dealing with this case, also dealing with this one. Same color means they can be the two of them reds. So red, red means 5 over 16 and 4 over 15, or green followed by green, 3 over 16, 2 over 15, or 7 over 30. 7 over 30 is the blue, blue. It was already given here, but you can still calculate to prove. It was already provided. So we can still compute to prove if you don't trust what we are doing around, but that is it. That one is already known. So we can now check it out. Allow me compute 5 over 16. This is multiplied by 4 out of 15. I close my brackets, then I add 3 over 16 multiplied by 2 over 15. And I close like that, plus 7 out of 30. I'm getting exactly 41 over 120. Please confirm this value. Confirm that value now. Confirm whether that is now the answer. That is what I'm getting from the studio. From the studios, that is what I'm getting. Then part 2, ladies and gentlemen. Now the probability that at least a red marble is picked. Probability that at least red. Probability that there is at least a red featuring somewhere. Probability at least red. Let us check the cases that bear reds. The cases that bear a red somewhere. Probability that there is a red somewhere. This is one case. This is another case. This is another. At least there is a red. So all the cases where a red tries to feature, either one or above. So we have a probability blue and red. So that is a 8 over 16. 8 over 16. Then that is a blue followed by red, 5 over 15. Or, which means addition in probabilities. Green, then a red. So green, then red means 3 over 16 and 5 over 15. Or, at least a red. So red and blue. So red is 5 over 16. Then blue, picking a blue, red, blue. You know, we have tackled the red, red. Red, blue, this one. So 5 over 16 and 8 over 15. Or, that is the third. So we can check red and green, 5 over 16, followed by a green. Green is 3 over 15. Or finally, the two of them being reds, 5 over 16 and 4 over 16. 5 over 16 and 4 over 15. That is now the probability of picking red followed by another red. Then now you can use your calculator to find the final answer. So let us check what we get from what we are doing here. I want to compute 8 over 16 and I multiply by 5 over 15. This is exactly 1 over 16, 1 over 6. Then 3 out of 16 and 5 over 15. This is giving me exactly 1 over 16. The next is 5 over 16 multiplied by 8 over 15. This is exactly 1 over 6. Then here we have 5 over 16 multiplied by 3 over 15. This is exactly 1 over 16. Or finally, the two reds shall be 5 over 16 multiplied by 4 over 15. This is exactly 1 over 12. So now this can be worked out. 1 over 6, 1 over 16, 1 over 6 again, 1 over 16, and 1 over 12. So I'm getting 7 out of 16, something that I request you to confirm. So that's our now final answer on the probability question. Probability, at least there is red, at least red. So we sample all the cases where reds are occurring. So that is the probability question, which is just a very interesting question. If you're getting something on probability, please type I am learning. Let us know the school that you come from. Let us know you. Let us interact kindly. Let us interact freely and fairly. Let us interact freely and fairly. Number 21, ladies and gentlemen. Number 21, we told to complete the table for the function y equals to the sine of x plus 30 and y equals to cosine of x plus 30 to 2 decimal places. Then after that, we draw the two functions. So let us check. Let us check what we will come up with. We can start with the first function. We pick the values of x because you can see the first row. This one is having x. The second one, the values of y. 2 times the sine of x plus 30. So we talk about now in this blank here, x is 30 plus 30, so that is 60. So sine 60 multiplied by 2. Sine 60 times 2 is 1.73. 1.73. Then we can check 120. 120 is our x. So x plus 30, that becomes a 120. 120 plus 30, 150. So sine 150, then we multiply it by 2. We're getting exactly 1. So 1.00, because we've been told to 2 decimal place. When you get a whole number, you're supposed to write it to 2 decimal places. 150, so we add 30, we get 180. The sine of 180, then times 2, it remains a 0. 0.00. Then at 300, we add 30, it becomes 300. So sine 330, then multiplied by 2. We get negative 1. Negative 1, like that. Then finally, at 360, it becomes 390. So sine 390, we multiply by 2, we get exactly 1.00, like that. 1.00, like that. From this point, ladies and gentlemen, from this point, we can now check the second function there. The other values of y shall be, we start with the 0, 0 plus 30. So we're dealing with cosine of 30 only. Cosine of 30 is exactly 0.87. Then at 60, we are adding 30 there. So cosine of 90, we get 0, but we write it as 0.00. At 120, that is the cosine of 150 now. Cosine of 150, according to the table, negative 0.87. Negative 0.87. Then at 180, we add 30, that is 210. Cosine of 210, we get exactly negative 0.87 again. At 240, we find the cosine of 270. Cosine of 270, this is exactly 0. So 0.00 like that. At 270, it becomes 300. So the cosine of 300, this is exactly 0.5. So 50 like that. At 330, the cosine of 360, get exactly 1. So 1.00. That's our first 2 marks. Simply going to your calculator and using your calculator wisely, you get the first 2 marks. Then the other one will come from plotting. The other marks will come from plotting. So now in our plotting, ladies and gentlemen, in our plotting, we are told that on the same axis, draw the graph of y equals to sine of x plus 30 and also y equals to the cosine of x plus 30. Take 1 centimeter to represent 30. That is on the horizontal axis, which is the x-axis. And 2 centimeters to represent 1 unit. That is on the vertical axis. So we can now interpret the scale. Then interpret the scale. Remember to subscribe. If you're a new member to our program, if you've never subscribed, please remember to. That is the horizontal axis. We have the vertical axis. So according to the instructions, from 0 here, we're supposed to use 2 centimeters to represent 2 centimeters to represent 1 unit. 1, 2. Do we have values that are greater than 2? Okay. That is the scale. -1, -2, -3, like that. Then for the horizontal, 30 degrees. So to use 30 degrees means 1 unit 30 degrees. So 30 here, 60 here, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210. After 210, we go to 240, sorry. 240, 270, 300, 330, 360. That is the 360. Yeah, can go to 390. That's enough. So we have interpreted the scale and yeah, written the coordinates very well. The axis have properly been labeled. So now we start with the first wave until we finish the plotting and also the drawing. So 0 and 1. 0, 1, like that. Then 30, 1.73. 30, 1.73. This is 1.5. 1.7. 1.7. Then at 60, we talk about exactly 2. Exactly 2. At 90, 1.73. At 90, 1.73. I'm supposed to be very careful here because 1.73, this is 1.5, 6, 7, like that. So 1.5, 6, 7, somewhere there. After 90, we go to 120, exactly 1. 120, exactly 1, which is there. 150, 0, 0. 150, 0, 0. 180, -1. 180, negative 1. What about at 210? At 210, negative 1.73. Negative 1.56773, like that. At 240, we have a negative 1. At 240, negative 1. Yeah, at 240, negative 1. So allow me confirm the value at 240, please. Allow me confirm the value at 240. You know, this is reminding me of the KCSE 2017, whereby students were given a wrong value, which is already inserted on the table, and people had to correct the value for them to proceed. So at 240, we are supposed to pick 240, we add 30, it becomes 270. So the sign of 270, then we multiply it by 2, and I'll get negative 2.00. So this is negative 2.00. So at 240, it's negative 2.00. That's a mistake. That's why you're supposed to confirm your values before you start the plotting. Confirm your values so that you don't get funny things. But generally, a curve is supposed to be very smooth. That is why, according to how the curve is already flowing, I doubted that value. At 270, negative 1.73. 1.73. At what? At 300, negative 1. At 330, 0. At 360, positive 1. Positive 1. So now that we have plotted, we can join the dots and come up with the curve. So allow me use this color. We don't know the name of that color, but you can check the plotting now. Say the curve is supposed to be very smooth. Very smooth. Just look at these. Very smooth. Like that. Very smooth, very smooth. Just look at that. Just look at that curve. Remember, I'm using my freehand. So this is the same thing I expect you to do. This is the same thing I expect you to do on your paper. This is the same thing I expect. That is now what I expect you to also come up with on your paper. This is curve y equals to 2, the sine of x plus 30. 2 multiplied by the sine of x plus 30. Then now we plot the other curve. Let us plot the second curve. We plot the second curve. At 0, we have a 0.87. At 0, positive 0.87, 0.5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7. The point is somewhere there. 0.5 is the next. 0.5 is there. Then 0, 0. Then from there, ladies and gentlemen, from there, you can talk of 90, negative 0.5. 0.5 is here. At 120, we talk of negative 0.87. Negative 0.5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is here. So we talk of a coordinate at that point. Let me make it smooth. Just a minute. Let me observe this coordinate well. Negative 0.9. When we round it off, 0.9. Yeah, 0.9 like that when we round it off. What about at 150? At 150, -1. What about at 180? At 180, -0.8. Somewhere here, somewhere there. At 180. What about at 210? -0.5, which is here. You know 0.5 is here. And also 0.5 is here. So this is just -1.5, 2.5. This is -1.5, like that. After 210, you can go to 240. At 240, 0, 0. So at 240, the curve shall be there. What about at 270? 0.5 positive. At 300, 0.87. So 0.9. What about at 330? 1. Exactly 1. Then from there, we can talk of 0.87 again at 360, which is near this part, just near that. So we can now come up with our smooth curve. Then come up with our smooth curve. When we talk about a smooth curve, this is what we mean. This is what we mean by a smooth and a continuous curve. Smooth and continuous. Smooth and continuous. Smooth and continuous. So now the green curve. The green curve can also be named. The green curve can also be named. The green curve can also be named. Allow me use a different color just to name that. Allow me use a different color to name the curve. So I can name it using this. This is an interesting color. This deep green or different green. So this curve here is curve y equals to the cosine of x plus 30. X plus 30. So those are now the two curves plotted on the same Cartesian plane. Plotted on the same Cartesian plane. I like the question. I really like the question. Now, after plotting the two curves, we are told to find, using the graph, the range of values of x for which the cosine of x plus 30 is less than or equal to 0. Less than or equal to 0. Where the values of the second curve is less than or equal to 0. So equal to 0 means the values of this, the y values now, the y values are either 0 or equal to 0. And that is from 60 all the way to 240. That range is having values which are exactly 0. And also the other end, exactly 0. But now the other values are less than 0. They are below the x-axis. So from 60 and 240. 60 and 240, or 60 to 240. That is the range of values of x. Between 60 and 240, the values of this second curve are either 0 or below 0. So they are below the x-axis. They're below the x-axis. And even when you get to the table, from 60, the values of y are 0. These are negative values until they become 0 again. So the range of values is between 60 and 240. The table is also very clear, and also the curve. It can be seen they are below the x-axis, so they are below 0. Then finally, the amplitude of the wave, y equals to, amplitude, with a wave like this, the amplitude can be read as 2 units. But now assuming that you didn't know this interpretation, the 2 is here already. This interpretation, you need to come to the curve here. The curve is here. And you check the lowest the curve can go. It's a -2. The highest it can raise is also +2. So it's 2 units. From the mean position, the highest the curve can go, the wave can go, is 2 units. That is what we call amplitude, 2 units. And if you pick it from the lower side of the x-axis, you don't write a -2, you write the absolute value. So it's 2. Amplitude is 2. Remember, generally, when a wave is given with a value here, then the sign, and you're given a certain constant here times maybe k times x, and you have not 30. Sorry, I was giving a general curve. This is beta, for instance. Then you will say amplitude is the value of A. This is a very common question in section A, math paper 2. Amplitude, you just pick the value there. So you can even pick the value of 2 without having to check where the curve is racing up to or where it is dropping up to. That way, with such a curve, there is something we call phase angle. A phase angle is given us the absolute value of theta. So for this curve, phase angle is 30. Then there is what we call period. Period equals to 360 divided by k. So in our case, the amplitude is just 360 because the value of k, whatever multiplies x here, is 1. So 360 over 1, we get 360. So we can find amplitude, we can find phase angle, we can find period without plotting the curve. But now when it has been plotted, we can extract the amplitude now by observing the highest point of the curve. The highest point of the curve. So that is it. That is how it's supposed to be done. That's how it's supposed to be done. That way. So if you're getting something on waves, if you're getting something on trigonometric graphs, type I am learning. Type on the messages, on the comment section, type I am learning. Then we can check something on three-dimensional geometry. Three-dimensional geometry. That is the question that leads us to number 22. So number 22, we read together, ladies and gentlemen. The figure below shows a right pyramid starting on a, or standing on a, okay, rectangular base, ABCD. AB equals to 8 centimeters, BC equals to 15 centimeters, and slant edge equals to 12 centimeters long. As you can see on the drawing, M is the midpoint of DC. M is already on the diagram, we can see. States the projection of VD. States the projection of VD on the plane ABCD, that is the base ABCD. So when you talk about a projection, it's about the shadow that the given line can cast on the. So when you talk about VD, it can only cast a shadow which is through a DO. So it's DO. OD, we can also call it DO. DO is the projection. If you are told to find the projection of VB, it will be OB. Projection of VC, it will be OC. Projection of VA, it is AO. So that's how we find the projection on the plane. Then in part B, we are given instructions that we find to two decimal places. One, the angle between the projection VD and OC. The angle between the projection of VD. So it's the angle between OD, the angle between OD and OC. The angle between OD and OC. So this is the angle that we are finding. Let me now show you. I want to use the diagram as much as possible to illustrate. So the angle between the projection of VD, which has been found to be OD, and OC. The angle now between there, the angle there. The angle we are finding is that one for 3 marks. So one thing that we're supposed to remember as we work out this is that the length of OC can be found. The length of M to C, MC, length MC can be found. You know, AB and DC are equal. So that's 8. DC is 8, meaning M to C, whereby we were told it's a midpoint, then this is going to be 4. That's going to be 4. What about the length O to C? We can first find AC, the length AC first. The whole of it, AC. Let's find length AC. Pythagoras theorem. Remember, this is rectangular base. Therefore, ABC, when we extract the diagonal there, it becomes a right-angled triangle. Right-angled at B. Therefore, 8 squared, 15 squared. Then we compute the square root. So AC shall be 8 squared plus 15 squared, and we carry out the square root. That is exactly 17. So the whole of AC is 17, meaning that OC is going to be 17 over 2. Divide by 2, 8.5. So this is 8.5 up to this point. Up to that point, 8.5. So with 8.5, ladies and gentlemen, with 8.5, we can now use one triangle here. OMC, triangle OMC, triangle OMC, to find the smaller angle here, to find the smaller angle there, which is going to be, you know, we are already having, with this angle, we have the opposite length, and we are having the hypotenuse, OC. So we can only use sine of the angle. So the sine of angle alpha there, the sine of alpha equals to opposite length out of hypotenuse, meaning that the angle alpha equals to sine inverse of 4 out of 8.5. We can find that angle. Shift sine 4 divided by 8.5. This is giving us exactly 28.07. But remember, the angle between now OD and OC. OD and OC is going to be the whole of it now. So we multiply by 2. So DOC, the angle now, DOC is going to be 28.07 times 2. So I multiply this by 2. This is giving us 56.14. 56.14. Remember, we've been told to give the angle to 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places. That is already calculated, 56.14. What about number 2, ladies and gentlemen? What about number 2 of the same question? The angle between VDC and the plane VDC. VDC, that is one of the sloping faces, and the base ABCD. So we usually say this, Angle between two planes is usually given by angle between two planes, ladies and gentlemen, is given by you draw a line through, you first identify where they meet. ABCD, that is the base, and VDC, which is another plane, they meet along DC, that is the common vertex, the common edge, the common edge. So we draw a line through to be perpendicular to DC, and also another line through the base. Where the two lines are meeting, that is the angle. A line through the base, another line through VDC. So they are meeting there to make an angle. So that will be the angle between VDC and ABCD. Now with this, ladies and gentlemen, with this now, we can now try as much as we can to find the angle. Remember, to find this one, it becomes very easy. Already from point O, we were having the length up to C. The length up to C is known. That is 8.5 centimeters. And 12 is also known, and this is perpendicular, remember? VO is perpendicular to OC. So we can find the vertical height. Vertical height will be given by Pythagoras theorem. 12 squared, the length, the VO, will be given by 12 squared minus 8.5 also squared. And we pick the square root. 12 squared minus 8.5 squared. We find square root. This is 8.47 centimeters. So the vertical height is 8.47 centimeters. 8.47 centimeters. Now with that length, we can also find the length from O to M. From O to M, if the total length BC is 15, then O to M shall be 7.5. Half of that, 7.5. So now we are having a triangle here. We are having a triangle here, whereby we have a vertical height BC, we have a length 7.5, we have a sloping edge M, O, B. This is 8.47. 8.47. This O to M is 7.5. And the angle that we need to find, the angle that we're supposed to find in this case is the angle at M. So this is the angle that we are finding, and we can only use trigonometry. So applying trigonometry in this, it means that we are supposed to use tangent. The tan of this angle shall be opposite length. Tan of that angle shall be opposite length, which is the square root of what? 71.75. 71.75 out of 7.5, which is the adjacent. Yeah, this length I'm giving it as the actual value, the square root of 71.75 to avoid a lot of error. So theta shall be given by the tan inverse of 71.75 with a square root out of 7.5, and we get the angle. So square root out of 7.5, then shift tan 48.48. 48.48. These are degrees. So that is the angle. That is now the angle. The other question is still on the other angle there is still on BC and VA. Angle between two lines now, VC and VA. Angle between VC and VA. Look at this one now carefully, VC and VA. The angle between BC and BA. You see this is 12. And now BC and BA are meeting at a vertex. They meet at V. They meet at V. So this is where they are meeting. So this is the angle they make. That is the angle they are making. BC and BA. So the whole of this angle, that is what you need. 12, 12. And the base here, we calculated it, it was 17. Check that. So this question now is very open. It has several things that you can apply. Look at it this way. BAC, I want to extract it. BAC as a triangle. I want to show you how open that question is. BAC. So we got VAC there. VAC. So we are already having this one as 17. This is 12. This is 12. And remember, the vertical height from B to O was already worked out. VO tulifanya as what? That value is what? Let's check it. VO. Why am I forgetting it? The length VO is this one. Yeah. The square root of 71.75 actually. The square root of 71.75. So this one is known as 8.47, like that. 8.47, or the square root of 71.75. 71.75. So to get the angle between BA and BC, we need the whole of this. We need the whole of that angle. So now we can start with a smaller angle here, which I may call alpha, and we apply which trigonometric ratio? Remember this point O. So using BOC, we have adjacent length and hypotenuse. So the cosine of the angle alpha equals to adjacent length 8.47 out of hypotenuse 12. So that the alpha becomes the cosine inverse of 8.47 out of 12. We're finding cos inverse, so shift cosine of 8.47 out of 12. This one is giving us 45.13. No, 45.103. Meaning that the whole angle ABC, our angle of interest now, shall be, we multiply this by 2. So times 2, this is giving us 90.21 because it's 90.206. So it becomes 90.21 degrees. That is the angle. Personally, I like this question on three-dimensional geometry. It's a very clean question, very good question, well elaborated. So you can type that I am learning on the comment section. I am learning. That is, if you get something, I am learning. Angle between two planes, angle between two lines, angle between a plane and a line. A plane and a line. So these are very good questions. Thought-provoking. Thought-provoking. So please ensure that you're learning something. Ensure that you're learning something. Actually, in our programs here, today we were covering a three-dimensional geometry. We gave an assignment and the students are responding very well on the same. So when you enroll to our programs, we teach you slowly by slowly, topic by topic. We ensure that we are together. And over the term 2, actually, I would like to invite in advance all the day scholars. All the day scholars, I want to invite you to our serious programs. We shall be having serious programs over the weekends. So kindly purpose to attend our scheduled programs. You can join us We are continuing. We are almost entering to our second week. So take an initiative and join a team of very serious teachers and very serious students like you, so that you may keep growing in mathematics, so that you may continue to improve every other day. So thank you so much for trusting in our programs. And it's my hope that you guys shall get the best. Our number, it is on the poster, 070415 3366. Three-dimensional geometry, done and dusted. Done and dusted. Tighten up your belts. We're going to cover the full section 2. So we are now in number 23. And of course, this is the second last question. Second last question. So we can check it slowly and step by step. We are told that the table below shows the monthly income tax for a certain year. For a certain year. We can see the brackets there. Then now more instructions are telling us that in a certain month that year, Mr. Kempos' taxable income in the fifth band was in the fifth band. So we can check the bands here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last band, in other words, 25,580. Mr. Kempos' earnings include a house allowance, 18,000, transport allowance, 6,000, and non-taxable risk allowance, 4,000. Underline that word, non-taxable risk allowance. In most of the cases, non-taxable allowances are the risk allowances, and also we have what we call hardship allowances. So in our case, we have a risk allowance. Part A, calculate Roman 1, Mr. Kempos' basic salary. So the first thing that I would like us to find is the taxable income. You see, in the last bracket, which is the fifth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth bracket, there is a known amount which is being taxed at the rate of 30% to give us the tax in the fifth band, which is 25,580. So the value of x shall be, we multiply by 100 over 30 both sides. 25,580 by 100 over 30. So the value there is going to be, that is the rate of 30% equals to, so by 100 over 30, are we getting exactly 85,266.70. Instead of 66, let me have 70 like that and 50 cents. So that's the amount that he has. That's the amount that lies in the last bracket, meaning that his total taxable income is going to be, before we tax anything in the last bracket, we have already taxed up to 50,420. So we add the amount that lies in the last bracket, which is 85,266.70. It's going to give us in Kenya shillings. We add 5420. This is exactly 135,000. 686.70. So that is now the taxable income for Mr. Kempo. Then after getting the taxable income, look at this. After getting the taxable income, we know that taxable income is usually given by basic salary plus taxable allowances. Very key, taxable allowances. Some people will lie to you that it is all the allowances. Not really. Taxable allowances. Therefore, taxable income is already given, 135. Let me write the right thing. 686 equals to unknown basic salary plus taxable allowances. We are having House allowance 18K. We are having transport allowance 6. The other tax, the other allowance is non-taxable, so it is not included here. So we can remain with the basic salary by picking 135,686.70, and we subtract 18,000. We subtract again 6,000. So this is exactly 111, 686.70 Kenya shillings. That is now the basic salary for Mr. Kembo. Basic salary for Mr. Kembo. It's a good question. Very, very good, actually. For Mr. Kembo, we have the basic salary like that. Then from there, we can proceed. You see, it's a question that requires a lot of understanding. Yes. So you're supposed to be very careful when reading out all these questions. Now, part 2, ladies and gentlemen, part 2. We try to find his payee if he is entitled to a personal relief of 2,400 per month. So let us compute all the taxes now. From the first bracket, what is the tax earned there? 24,000 at the rate of 10. At the rate of 10%. This is a 2400 like that. 2400. Then in the second bracket, what lies there? We pick this limit and we subtract the previous one, 32,333, and we subtract 24,000. This is going to be 8,333. 8,333 at the rate of, is it 15? You can check that. At the rate of 15, yeah? This is a 1249. 1249.95. In the third bracket, what is the taxable income there? We pick the limit and we subtract the previous limit. So 41,410, and we subtract 32,333. So we're getting 90,777. 90,777 at the rate of 20%. At the rate of, 20%. This is going to be 1815.4. 1815.40, like that. What about in the fourth? In the fourth bracket. In the fourth bracket, we have this limit. We subtract the previous. So 50 or 20. We subtract 41 or 10. 41 for 10. And we're getting 9010. 9010 at the rate of 25%. So the tax here at the rate of 25 shall be 2252. 2252.50. 50, like that. Then now in the fifth bracket, we don't need to work it out. There we are taxing this amount at the rate of 30 to give us the tax in the fifth, which is 25,580. 25,580. So now we can add so that we may get what we call the gross tax. The gross tax. Gross tax shall be, we add everything downwards now. Let me use my calculator very well and keenly. You can also try the same. Please make sure that as we add, you are also adding. As we add, ensure that you also add 24,000. No, 2400, sorry. plus 1249.95 plus 1815.40 plus 2252.50 plus 25,580. This is 32,295, 297.85. 2400 plus confirmation 1249.95 plus 1815.4 plus 2252.5 plus 25,580. This is exactly 33,297.85. I hope that is the correct value. Said you can confirm from that other side. Just make sure you confirm for purposes of accuracy. When I make a mistake, please just adopt the explanation. Ignore the wrong value. Ignore what is wrong. And please adopt the right explanations. So that is it. The gross tax is there. But now we are supposed to find the payee, or rather the net tax. The net tax. Let us check the net tax. Net tax is going to be when we pick the gross tax and we subtract relief. So the gross tax and we subtract the relief on the taxation, 2400. So we shall get, when we subtract 2400, we shall get 30,897.85. So that is now the net tax that is paid by Mr. Campbell. So Mr. Campbell pays such a tax, which is very high. It's a very high tax, 30,000 in a month. That is very high. I don't know the country you might be coming from, but your guess is as good as mine. Part B. But so far, are you getting something? If yes, remember the comment. In part B, you're saying that Mr. Campbell add the following statutory determine or other deductions. Other deductions. NSSF, 2160. Shift contribution is 2.75 of the gross pay. Gross pay. Then again, housing levy, 1.5% of the gross pay. That means we are supposed to determine gross pay before anything else. Determine Campbell's net pay. So the gross pay first can be found. Gross pay, or rather gross income. Gross pay shall be everything that he earns. Everything that he earns now. Everything that he earns plus whatever is not taxed. So we add the taxable income now, which is 135,686.7. We add the 4,000, which is not taxed, so that you may get the gross income. So the gross income, the gross pay is 139,686. That is the gross pay, the gross income that he earns. Therefore, now we're saying this, you know, it's a 2/3, It's 2/3 of shillings. The six recurring is 2/3 of a shilling. Anyway, you can say that the other deductions now, other deductions that are paid by Mr. Campbell include NSSF, which is 21,060. Other deducts include the shift, which is exactly. So we talk about we talk about 139,686 and 2/3 of a shilling times 2.75%. 2.75%. So 139,686. Then we multiply by 2.75 out of 100. This is exactly 3841.38 Kenya shillings, or can round it to 40. And again, there is the housing levy. Finally, I've known the country where Mr. Kembo comes from. Levy. Housing levy, 1.5%. 139,686 and 2/3 of a shilling times 1.5%. So how much is this? How much is this levy? 139,686 and 2/3. Now we multiply this by 1.5%, which is exactly 2095.3. 0.30. So now when we talk about a net pay or net income, it means the gross pay, or rather the gross income, minus all deductions. All the deductions. So we'll be picking 139,686.70. We subtract all the deductions. Now, the first deduction is going to be the payee, 3897.85. 3897.85, that is the payee. He pays that, plus other deductions. Other deductions now. Other deductions on Mr. Campbell. Other deductions are now listed here. Other deductions are here, 2160. Another deduction is a 2.75, which was worked out here, 3841.40. Another deduction is here, 295.30. So now we can work it out as the net pay. So 139,686.70 minus, what is the addition of all these other deductions? 3897.85, 2160, 3841.4 plus 2095.3. So all these are giving us all the deductions now, 994.55, meaning that the estimated net income shall be 139,686.7 minus all these. So we get the net income is 100,692.15 Kenya shillings. So that is now the net income for Mr. Campbell. There are very many things that you're supposed to know about taxable income or taxation generally, commercial arithmetic to be specific. Now on taxation, we're supposed to know that we're supposed to know that total taxable income is given by basic salary plus all the taxable allowances. So there are some allowances that are not taxable, just like the non-taxable risk allowance mentioned here. And something else that you also supposed to know, ladies and gentlemen, something else that you supposed to know is that you are supposed to know that when we talk about gross income now, it is everything now. The taxable income plus whatever was not taxed. The taxable income plus whatever was not taxed.